Hello, everyone. I am First Alert Meteorologist Chrissy Kohler. We are still in the midst of two more First Alert weather days. For the most part, the precipitation has come to an end, although we are seeing some northwest flow snow showers across parts of the higher elevations into the mountains. So that's going to continue to compound any of those issues. It is in an area that transitioned over to rain yesterday afternoon, but then had the temperatures drop below freezing overnight last night. So that means that there's probably some icy roads and some slick roadways going on across most of our mountain areas. So that's certainly a concern, but especially the southern mountains and then these areas into the northwest that are getting some of those those northwest flow snow conditions here this morning. So we do have those two first alert weather days that are still in play for today because of those icy road conditions, and then into the day tomorrow because of the dangerously cold conditions that we're looking ahead to here. So a lot going on here. We're not quite out of the woods quite yet. So I'm going to pop up some of these graphics here and take you through what's going on and some of the big concerns we have going forward for the next couple of days. And then, yes, I will quickly talk about what we're talking about for this weekend, which don't get too excited about anything yet. Is that big headline that I want to give you for this next weekend. So today, the first alert weather day is because of the dangerous roads, the icy conditions. Things can change on a dime while you're out on those roadways. Some roads may be just fine out there, as our amazing road crews have been working overtime all across the Western Carolinas to get things back to normal as quickly as possible for us. But just be aware that they haven't gotten everywhere quite yet, just because of the nature of the beast. There's a lot to clear out. There's a lot of roadways to treat. So those primary roads are probably looking a lot better for the upstate today versus our secondary roads, and even for the mountains. You're likely not seeing tons of improvement quite yet, but that's why we still have that first alert weather day for those lingering impacts from yesterday. And then we've got the cold for tomorrow morning, dangerously cold conditions. Icy roadways still a big concern for us for tomorrow. And temperature wind chills, though, down to -20 to around -5 into the mountains, and as low as 0 to 10 into the upstate. So we're talking about some very, very cold conditions there. So let's talk about that northwest flow snow that's developed here into the mountains. You can see the upstate is looking nice, bright and sunny out there. But as we look here into those northern mountains, you can see that we do have some snow that's moving up and over from the Tennessee border. Northwest flow, because it's coming out of the northwest, it doesn't have a ton of moisture to it, but it does produce some of these snow showers. Occasionally can be heavy from time to time, but they just don't make it very far into the mountains. So mainly through Madison and Haywood counties, parts of Swain County as well. I was just looking at a special weather statement that had been put out by the National Weather Service. Very light snow showers. These are kind of going to taper off later today, but up to a ½ inch is possible, especially across some of those lower elevations, with up to 1 inch across some of the higher elevations there. And that's going to include Madison, Yancey, Mitchell, Swain, Haywood, and Buncombe, as well as Graham County. So mainly our border counties. Could some of this make it into Asheville? Maybe if we get a stronger burst that kind of holds together up and over the mountains, but for the most part, this is going to be those high mountains there. Temperatures below freezing, so it is all snow into the mountains right now. We don't even have that warm layer above the surface, and it's cold in the mountains, 20s right now. We are at least above the freezing mark into the upstate. It's still cold, but we're at least above freezing. So that's going to work in our favor today. But those winds are going to be kind of a nasty factor for us, for a lot of us, making it feel even worse out there. Other than Pickens and Greenville, the winds are sustained at about 5 to 20 miles per hour right now here as we head through the lunch hour, and all gusting from about 20 to 40 miles per hour. 20 to 25 it looks like right now in the mountains, although we've seen some of those 30 to 35 mile per hour gusts today. In the upstate, it's anywhere from 20 to 25 in Clemson and Anderson. But then look at Spartanburg, 37 mile per hour wind gusts right now. So that's making it feel even colder. Spartanburg, you're only at 32 right now. You factor in that wind, it feels like 23. In Asheville, it feels like 7 degrees when you factor in that wind. Feels like 28 out into Clemson and Anderson. Feeling like 17 in Franklin. So it's just not very warm out there when you factor in that wind. And that was one of the things that our reporters were really saying. Our reporters in the field today kept mentioning was just that wind made it feel really cold out there. It was just kind of cutting through and adding that extra big chill. So If you do plan to be out and about today, make sure that you are grabbing those extra layers. Make sure you're staying nice and warm, bundling up, and being ready for that that wind to kind of cut. Make sure that those layers are nice and warm. If you've got something that can kind of break up that wind, or windbreaker or something, with a warmer coat out there. So those winds are going to stay pretty elevated through most of the day. We're looking at those winds all across the Western Carolinas, about 20 to 35 mile per hour wind gusts through the day, up to 40 through some of the higher elevations as well. That lasts through 6, 7 o'clock this evening. Now, once we get past about 9, 10 o'clock, they start to come down in the upstate, but we're still seeing some of those 30 mile per hour wind gusts through the mountains. And then the gusts themselves come down around 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. The winds, however, will stay sustained at about 5 to 15 miles per hour, because that's going to come into play here in a second when we talk about our wind chills for overnight tonight. So the gusts themselves start to die down. They'll pick back up again tomorrow afternoon, but the sustained winds stay elevated overnight tonight. So that keeps that wind chill factor going overnight. But I bring up these winds today to not only talk about how much colder it's feeling out there, but also to talk about the potential for power outages. We do have the continued concern for additional power outages in parts of the mountains because of the winds, about 30 to 40 miles per hour, and the lingering ice across a lot of our power lines up there. So those areas that are frozen, that have that ice built up, Mark Johnson, one of our first alert meteorologists, was up in Flat Rock today and showed just that, like, this 1/4 of an inch of ice, but it's solid there through, and some of that has built up on our power lines there. So with those areas that have the lingering ice on the power lines, and the winds gusting 30 to 40 miles per hour, I do have concerns that there could be additional power outages in the mountains today. So even if you've kept your power thus far, it doesn't mean you're completely out of the woods yet. For the upstate, I can't completely rule out some additional power outages, especially when those winds are gusting, but what's working in our favor for the upstate is that the melting is happening. So the ice accumulations on the power lines is rapidly decreasing as that sun works to melt off the ice, as well as the temperatures above freezing. So that, you've got still the elevated winds, but they're not necessarily strong enough to create major, like on a normal day, if we didn't have ice on the power lines, I wouldn't be concerned about 20 to 30 mile per hour winds necessarily taking out creating widespread power outages. And so because we're losing the ice accumulations on those power lines, I think we're a little better off for the upstate versus the mountains today. Now, that's not to say there couldn't be occasional additional power outages. I just don't think it's going to be quite as high of a threat as it would be for the mountains. And of course, this is all very just, it's all kind of hit and miss as to where the power outages happen. And of course, the power crews, another group of amazing individuals who are working around the clock to get those restored. So just bear with them, but be prepared for that possibility. I don't want people to let their guards down and think we're completely out of the woods with the potential for power outages at this point. Like, if you haven't lost power, you're not going to lose power. There is that possibility for today. What we're seeing here for the upstate is that we at least get about 9 hours of temperatures above the freezing mark, which is some good news here. A lot of sunshine. All of us, except for those northwest flow snow showers, are getting sunshine today. So that is going to help to allow for a lot of melting. A lot of that is going to be the trees and the power lines, the homes, any of those elevated surfaces. But keep in mind, all of that dripping down to the ground. Now, we have a pretty dry air mass in place for most of us, and so that's going to allow for some decent evaporation today as that melting occurs. And especially with that sunshine out there, that solar energy helps to evaporate that moisture. But I don't think that all of it is going to disappear today, and I think there are still going to be a lot of wet roadways, wet pavement, wet surfaces, sidewalks, things of that nature, as well as some puddles, especially because we got a good amount of freezing rain and sleet yesterday. And so I think that those will create some problems overnight tonight as soon as those temperatures drop. So our temperatures, you'll notice, are going to drop right here between 3 and 7 o'clock below freezing. And that's the time frame where that concern for black ice is going to start to come into play. So again, we do have some things working in our favor today to help melt that off. Melt, baby, melt. We want this to happen. We want the melt to happen. We want that evaporation to happen, and we want this to go away as soon as possible. So for the upstate, Mother Nature helping us out here, giving us those upper 30s to low 40s for afternoon highs. That's going to help a lot with the melting process here. In the mountains, you never get above freezing, so upper 20s to low 30s. There will be a little bit of melting because of the sun. For those places that are seeing sun, again, around the Tennessee-North Carolina border with that additional snow showers, you're not getting any of that sunshine. You're not getting any of that melting. In fact, you're getting more accumulations up there. But for those southern mountains, you're going to see a little bit just because of the sun, but the majority of it isn't going to be going anywhere unless it's from the human side of things. So the crews out there that are really going to help to clear and make sure that those roads are getting cleared. So that is something to kind of factor in when we're talking about our road conditions as we head throughout the rest of the day today. So let's go back to talking about the nature of the cold air and just how cold it's going to be as we head through the overnight hours tonight. We do have a cold weather advisory for the upstate Northeast Georgia and into the mountains. And that is because our temperatures are really going to drop overnight tonight down into the teens and single digits. And for the, for the mountains, we are looking at those temperatures to drop down into the single digits. And I did this because I wanted to pull this up. Talk about these cold weather alerts. So this was something that within the last 2 years, the National Weather Service has kind of transitioned away from the wind chill warnings and advisories and things of that nature, and have kind of pulled it back all into one umbrella here. So this is what these advisories and these watches and warnings mean. So for the advisory, it means be aware. A cold weather advisory is issued when seasonably cold air temperatures or wind chill values, but not extremely cold values, are expecting or occurring. And then into the higher elevations of the mountains, we actually have an extreme cold warning, which means take action. So that extreme cold warning is issued when dangerously cold air temperatures or wind chills are expected, and those are occurring. And so that's what we're looking at here with these two different kinds of advisories that we have currently for us overnight tonight. We've got the cold weather advisory for the upstate Northeast Georgia and the southern mountains there, and then the extreme cold warning that is in play for the higher elevations above 3,500 feet in those areas shaded in the dark blue that you're seeing. And that goes into effect at 6 o'clock tonight through noon tomorrow for all of us here. So Tuesday morning, our feels like temperatures in the upstate are going to be as low as 0 to 10 degrees. That's when you factor in the winds. Let me go back. I missed a step here. Let me go back and talk about those temperatures. Temperatures tomorrow morning around 7 a.m. are in the single digits. This is where we bottom out, single digits across the mountains, low to mid-teens into the upstate, about 12 to 15 degrees. I feel like every single time we have had one of these Arctic outbreaks, we keep saying it's the coldest of the season. It's the coldest of the season. This one is the coldest of the season. I know it sounds ridiculous that we keep saying that, but it's like it's progressively getting worse and worse every time we get one of these Arctic outbreaks. So the good news is we're at the coldest part of the year, so hopefully they get less and less cold going forward. But this really is the coldest air we've seen so far this season. I know, single digits out the door, teens into the mountains. That is what it's going to feel like, or that is what the actual temperatures are going to be. Then you factor in the wind, which is sustained at about 5 to 15 miles per hour, and it feels even colder out there. So it feels like 0 to 10 degrees across the upstate and northeast Georgia. For the majority of the mountains, though, it is going to feel like the valleys are going to feel about -15 to around -5. And for the higher elevations, you could feel as low as -20. So it's going to feel colder when the wind is blowing. When the wind is not blowing, it won't feel quite that cold. But this is what we want you to be prepared for. If you're going to be outside, that this is what it will feel like from time to time because those winds pick up. And we're talking about the potential for some dangerous cold here. So the reason that these watches and advisories are issued here is because of the potential for dangerous cold. Frostbite in these kinds of temperatures can occur in about a half hour to an hour. So that's a decent amount of time. Most of us are probably not going to be outside for that extended amount of time during those hours. Again, through noon tomorrow, 6 p.m. tonight through noon tomorrow. But some of you can avoid it. Some of you have to be out in these cold temperatures where we're just talking about power outages. Some of you are unfortunately without power right now. And so this is where the concern comes into play. So if you are in a home that does not have power, or a building that does not have power, and that's where you're planning on sleeping tonight, make sure that you are doing what you need to do to stay warm. Make sure you're bundling up. Make sure you've got those extra layers, a nice warm sleeping bag. If you need to get to a warming shelter, absolutely do that because it is going to be very cold. For those of you who have to be outside in this, for some reason tomorrow morning, make sure that you are covering all your skin. That will help prevent frostbite. You're going to want to dress in layers. You want the lowest layer to kind of be a tight, a skin hugging layer, and then some looser layers on top to help trap the heat from your body. And then you want to make sure that you're reaching for things like wool or synthetic fabrics to help keep you warm. Those will trap that heat and help keep your body warm. You want to kind of use your body heat to work with you there. And then another tip, if you're going to be out in the cold, and this is more for people who are going to be in the cold for an extended period of time, make sure you're staying hydrated and staying nourished. Those things will help to kind of offset the potential for frostbite and even hypothermia, where we're talking about it is that cold out there. And we don't get that cold very often here. That's just a reminder, like it, you know, this sounds extreme, but we really don't get that cold this often. The other concern is with those temperatures dropping down well below freezing by 6 o'clock tonight is the potential for ice. So let's talk a little bit about the ice that we're looking at for tonight. That potential is really there overnight tonight and into tomorrow. So that freezing temperature for the upstate, keep in mind, mountains, you're freezing this whole time. Overnight tonight, though, for the upstate, it starts around 6 o'clock. Those temperatures drop below freezing, and it goes until 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That's when we finally get above freezing. So that's when you need to be watching for those icy roads. And that, again, any moisture on any surfaces, anything that looks wet out there is going to freeze overnight tonight and increases that potential for black ice. It's called black ice. It's not really black. What it basically is a thin layer of ice in some cases. Other places, it's going to be very obvious where the ice is. Some places, though, it's that thin layer of ice for where the road looks clear, but it's actually the ice out there because everything's frozen. It was wet, and then it froze, and then you've got kind of this black underneath of it, the pavement that's underneath of it. And you're able to see through it because it's such a thin layer of ice. But it can be very dangerous, which is why we have that big concern for those icy roadways again tomorrow morning for a lot of us. Now, I don't think it's going to be quite as widespread as what we had this morning. But I still think it's enough that you need to be extra cautious because, again, keep in mind, you could be driving down a roadway and it's just fine. And then all of a sudden you hit that black ice that comes out of nowhere. And next thing you know, you're in a dangerous situation there. So it is very important to still use caution, especially tonight and tomorrow once things start to refreeze. That's a big concern for a lot of us. And a lot of the county officials, the city officials that we've been talking to, the first responders, our folks who are really making the decisions here are very concerned about this as well. So we want to warn people that this is a big concern for us. The other thing we're getting a lot of questions about here is, are we going to do this all again next weekend? And right now, we'll see. So here's the situation. This morning, there is a signal that there is the potential for some light snow Friday night into Saturday morning. This is a look at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. The European is the morning model run. The GFS is the afternoon run. The GFS has been pretty consistent in showing this through the day. We'll have to see if the European shows this again in the afternoon. The challenge here is that both of these were kind of showing this about middle part of next week. Last Wednesday, if I can remember correctly, was when they were both starting to hint at this possibility. The Euro pretty quickly lost it and was like, yeah, no, we're not going with that. The GFS held on to it a little longer, and then they both kind of lost this signal of the potential for snow this upcoming weekend. Well, then it started to show back up. So at this point, it's something we're going to be monitoring. This is not a slam dunk. It's very possible that we see this here this morning. It's possible the Euro comes in this afternoon and is dry, or it's possible that we keep holding on to this signal. So it is going to be cold again this weekend. We get another Arctic front that comes in, just another one. So those of you who are ready for spring, me included, we are not getting that anytime soon. But it is going to be cold this weekend. So the cold air is going to be in place, and it is a favorable setup if this were to come to fruition here. What we've been watching and what we've kind of been hinting at is this area of low pressure that's going to develop down here along the Gulf Coast and ride into the area. So as we head into the overnight hours, Friday night and into Saturday, that deep cold air is there. And then we've got that moisture transport. So that's what the models have been kind to try to resolve here is, do we get that moisture pulling into the area? The models have been showing that area of low pressure, but the amount of moisture and where it's landing has been kind of one of those things that it hasn't been very consistent on. So that's where the low confidence in this forecast for this weekend comes from. Once we start to see this, just like last week, there will be changes. But once we start to see this kind of solidify, we start to see the models lock in on a solution, that's when we will start to gain some traction with this forecast. This is a European model that does show that possibility of a quick shot of some snow on Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and then clearing out into the day on Sunday. Possible snow, I guess, lingering into the mountains based off of this Sunday morning and then clearing out by Sunday afternoon. The cold air is there. The moisture could be there. But just like last week, there will likely be changes to this forecast as we get going forward. Is it possible we get snow? Sure. Is it possible we get nothing? Sure. Is it also possible that we get somewhere in between and we unfortunately end up with another icy mess? Absolutely. All of these things are very much on the table with this track. Last week, what we saw happen was early in the week, we had that area of low pressure that was going to track to our south and bring us the snow. And then it started to move further and further to the north. So that was the trend we watched all week long. This is a very similar setup where we're going to have to watch where that area of low pressure tracks. If it starts to track further to the north, we know we're going to start to transition away from snow and possibly into something else. So this is a very nuanced setup. Once again, a very difficult thing to forecast. And again, we're just not getting the strong signal at this point, the consistent signal is what I should say, that we're going to get any wintry precipitation this weekend. So right now we're keeping that very low risk for Friday night into Saturday. I will say one of the big differences between what this looks like and what we saw this past weekend is based off of what I'm seeing in the data this morning. If what we see this morning holds true the rest of the week, we'd be talking about some pretty late snowfall totals. It would be kind of maybe up to around an inch of snow for the upstate, a little bit higher for the mountains. So again, there's a lot of things to work through at this point, a lot of things that we will continue to be transparent about. We will continue to bring you the first alert on, and we will continue to update you on how we are analyzing this data. So that's what our job is to do, is to look at this, to analyze that, and to give you what we think is going to happen. And as of right now, I think we watch and we're waiting, and it's a possibility, but it's not a slam dunk at this point. So we'll continue to keep you updated as we get a little bit closer. For now, we're focused on that cold weather that we're going to be dealing with the next couple of days. I'll throw up the 7 days so that you can see this and see what we're talking about the next few days, where we've got temperatures tomorrow afternoon. Despite the cold morning, we do get to 40 tomorrow afternoon, and then we get Wednesday and Thursday in the 40s. Overnight lows a little bit warmer in those low to mid 20s, still cold, but a little bit warmer, at least through those overnight hours. And then we turn cold again for Saturday. So again, Saturday, even without any of that precipitation, it is going to be cold out there. 20s for afternoon highs on Saturday in the upstate, teens again for those overnight lows, and 30s again on Saturday. In the mountains, we do get 41 tomorrow afternoon. So that's going to be a big help for you guys tomorrow afternoon in the mountains to get some good melting going. Unfortunately, it just doesn't come until the later part of the day, and it's a small window. But any melting we can get at this point is really good to try to get as much of it out of here as fast as we can. And then in the mountains, you are looking at teens every night. So that refreeze continues to be a very real possibility until we can completely melt off a lot of this precipitation. And unfortunately, for a lot of our mountain areas, especially the ones that got some of those higher totals into the southern mountains along the Blue Ridge Escarpment. Those are the areas where I've got the most concern for the potential that this could continue for several more mornings where you're just going to have those dangerous conditions. So you got to stay tuned. Right here on Fox Carolina, we're giving you the latest updates from the county officials, from the school districts, giving you the information. They're also going out and sending their crews out to gather this information, to really look at the road conditions and see what's going on so that they can make the most informed decisions to keep as many people safe as possible. So that's really where those decisions are coming from. We're the messenger for them. We're the folks that get that information to you. So those are the things that you need to be paying attention to, is noting that they are putting your safety first, these officials, and that they want you to be to keep everyone alive and well, and so that's why they are making some of these decisions going forward. This is a look at some of our highest reported ice totals. Again, these are the areas that are going to have the toughest time melting this off, especially when those temperatures don't get above freezing for too many hours over the next couple of days. So again, that's one of the biggest concerns the next couple of days, that cold air, getting this stuff to melt off and trying to get back to normal. I would love to have 40s and 50s in the forecast to help get this out of the way, but unfortunately that's just not what we have in our forecast for us. So everyone be safe out there, stay safe. The good news is no precipitation after today, except in the mountains, until maybe this weekend, so we at least do have some dry weather to get through, and we'll continue to keep you updated on these on every little thing that we're looking at here, and continue, of course, to keep you updated on this weekend, but updating you on everything with these first alert weather days going forward.